My name is Mara Ellison. I am 33 years old. And the day my parents drained my entire college fund to pay for my sister's dream wedding, without telling me, without asking me, without even a single conversation, was the day I made a decision that changed the rest of my life. I did not scream. I did not cry in front of them. I did not beg for an explanation. I packed 2 bags, walked out of that house, and did not look back for 6 years. What I built in those 6 years. What I became, and what happened the night I finally walked back into a room full of my family is something none of them saw coming. Including me. If you are new here, please subscribe before we go any further. Drop your country and your local time in the comments right now. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to where this story really began. I grew up in a small city in Tennessee. My father ran a modest accounting firm. My mother stayed home until my sister and I were both in high school and then went back to work part-time at a local real estate office. We were comfortable. Not wealthy, but comfortable. The kind of family where college was always the plan and saving for it started early. My sister's name is Brianna. She is 2 years younger than me. From the very beginning, Brianna and I were different in ways that went beyond personality. I was quiet and focused. I liked books and numbers and solving problems that had clear answers. Brianna was social and expressive and beautiful in the way that makes strangers stop and look twice. She had a warmth that pulled people toward her and a laugh that made rooms feel bigger. My parents loved us both. I have always believed that. But love and attention are not the same thing. And attention in our house followed Brianna the way sunlight follows south-facing windows. Naturally, automatically, without anyone deciding it should. Brianna's school plays. Brianna's cheerleading competitions. Brianna's friend groups and the ongoing beautiful chaos of her life took up most of the oxygen in our home. I did not resent it exactly. I just learned to need less oxygen. I was a straight A student all through high school. I applied to 6 universities. I was accepted to 4 of them, including my first choice, the University of Tennessee's business program. Strong scholarship offer, but I still needed approximately $38,000 over 4 years to cover what the scholarship did not. My parents sat me down the spring of my senior year and told me not to worry. The fund was there. They had been building it since I was 7 years old. They showed me the account balance, $42,000. I remember looking at that number and feeling something I had not felt in a long time, seen, chosen, prioritized. I graduated high school in June. I was supposed to start university in September. In July, my sister got engaged. Brianna had been dating a man named Cole for 2 years. Cole came from a family with money and opinions about how things should be done. His mother in particular had very specific ideas about weddings, about venues, about guest counts, about what a proper celebration looked like. Brianna wanted everything Cole's mother envisioned. The venue she chose was a restored plantation estate outside Nashville. The guest list grew to 220 people. The dress she found cost $4,000. The catering, the flowers, the photography, the band, everything was chosen at the top of every price range. The total cost of the wedding came to just over $80,000. Cole's family contributed $30,000, which left $50,000 still needed. I found out what happened to the rest of it 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave for university. My mother sat me down at the kitchen table. My father stood near the window with his back slightly turned. That detail, my father not being able to look at me directly, is something I have never forgotten. My mother said they needed to talk to me about the college fund. I remember thinking she was going to tell me there had been some kind of investment issue, some loss I would need to adjust for. She told me they had used it for Brianna's wedding. All of it. $42,000. Used, already transferred. Already spent on deposits and bookings and a dress hanging in my sister's closet. I sat at that table and I did not speak for a very long time. My mother kept talking. She used words like family investment and once in a lifetime, and we knew you would understand. She said I could still go to university, just take out loans like most students do. She said Brianna's wedding was a moment that only happens once. She said the fund would be rebuilt, and they would help me with loan payments when they could. My father said nothing. He was still facing the window. I asked one question. Did Brianna know where the money came from? My mother paused just long enough to answer the question without saying a word. Then she said Brianna had not been involved in the financial decisions. I stood up from that table. I went to my room. I sat on the edge of my bed for approximately 2 hours. And then I made the decision I told you about at the beginning. I packed 2 bags, essentials only. I took my documents, my savings, $4,000 I had earned from 2 years of part-time work, my laptop, and my acceptance letter from the University of Tennessee. I left a note on the kitchen counter. 3 words, "I'll be fine." I walked out at 6 in the morning before anyone was awake. I did not say goodbye to Brianna. I did not attend her wedding 3 weeks later. I did not respond to the 14 phone calls my mother made over the following week. I was gone. Have you ever been in a situation where someone took something that belonged to you, your time, your money, your opportunity, and dressed it up as love? Called it family? Expected you to smile and accept it? Drop the word taken in the comments. If you know exactly what that feels like. The first year was the hardest. I made it to Knoxville with $4,000 and an acceptance letter and absolutely no plan beyond those 2 things. I deferred my university enrollment for 1 year, which the admissions office allowed given my academic record. I found a room in a shared house with 3 other young women for $450 a month. I got 2 jobs within the first week. Days at a coffee shop. Evenings doing data entry remotely for a small logistics company I found through an online job board. I lived on very little. I learned exactly how much a person actually needs versus how much they have been taught to expect. Those are very different numbers. I enrolled in 1 online accounting course that first year to keep my skills sharp. By the end of that year, I had saved $11,000. I started university the following September. I took out the minimum loans necessary and covered the rest with my savings and continued part-time work. I graduated in 4 years with a degree in business administration and a concentration in financial management. My GPA was 3.8. I did not tell my parents I had enrolled. I did not tell them I had graduated. I did not reach out at all during those 4 years except for a single message on my mother's birthday each year. 2 sentences. "I hope you are well." "I am okay," they responded each time. Long messages, explanations, updates about Brianna's life, her marriage, eventually her first child. I read every message. I did not reply beyond those 2 sentences. I was not ready. And not being ready is a complete and sufficient reason. After graduation, I took a position as a junior financial analyst at a mid-sized investment advisory firm in Nashville. I was 26 years old, $4,000 in remaining loan debt, and completely self-made in a way that felt both exhausting and like the most solid thing I had ever stood on. I worked hard in a way that only people who have built something from genuine nothing can fully understand. Not performing hard work, actually doing it. Staying late because the work mattered. Taking on projects others passed on. Asking questions that made senior colleagues look at me differently. Within 18 months, I was promoted. Within 3 years, I was managing a small team. Within 5 years, I was the firm's youngest senior analyst and had been approached twice by competing firms offering more money than I had previously believed I would ever earn. I was 32 years old, earning more annually than my father had at the peak of his career. Living in a clean, modern apartment in Nashville. 6 years of silence from my family except for 8 birthday messages. Then, my grandmother called. Her name was Ruth. She was my father's mother, and she was 81 years old, and she had always been the one person in my family who saw me clearly. She had my mobile number, which I had never given to my parents but had given to her years earlier. She spoke to me for 40 minutes. She did not pressure me. She did not take sides. She told me she was not well. She wanted to see me before things got harder. There was a family dinner being planned for her 82nd birthday in 6 weeks, and she was asking me personally to come. Then she said something I have thought about many times since. "Mara, carrying something heavy for a long time does not make you strong. It just makes you tired, and you are allowed to put it down whenever you choose." I told her I would think about it. I thought about it for 6 weeks. And then I drove to my parents' house on a Saturday evening in October and walked through the front door for the first time in 6 years. My mother opened the door. She stood there for a moment without speaking. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me so tightly I could feel her shaking. She did not say anything for a long time. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were wet, and she looked at my face the way people look at something they were afraid they had lost permanently. "You came," she said. "Grandma asked me to," I said. That was honest. and she accepted it without asking for more. My father appeared in the hallway behind her. He looked older than I remembered. He looked at me the way my mother had, with something that sat between relief and guilt, and did not quite know which direction to fall. He said my name. Just my name. Nothing else. I nodded at him. That was all I had for him at that moment, and he seemed to understand it. I went to find my grandmother. Ruth was sitting in the living room in the armchair she had always claimed as hers at every family gathering. She was smaller than I remembered, thinner, but her eyes were exactly the same, sharp, and warm and completely present. She looked at me when I walked in, and she smiled the way only people who have been waiting a long time for something smile when it finally arrives. "There she is," she said, quietly. I sat beside her and held her hand for a long time, without saying anything. Some conversations do not need words to start. Brianna arrived an hour later with Cole and their daughter, who was 4 years old and had Brianna's eyes and Cole's cautious quietness. Brianna stopped when she saw me standing in the kitchen doorway. She had not known I was coming. I could see that immediately. Nobody had told her. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she walked toward me slowly and stopped a few feet away. "Mara," she said. "Brianna," I said. Silence, the particular silence of two people who have a very large thing sitting between them and are deciding together whether tonight is the night to address it. "I am glad you came," she said finally. "I came for Grandma," I said. She nodded. She understood that too. We did not hug. We stood in the kitchen and talked about small things. Her daughter's name, which was Lily, the drive they had taken to get here, the weather. Surface conversation. Careful conversation. The kind that says, "I am not ready to go deeper yet, but I am willing to stand here with you until we are." Dinner was served at the long table in the dining room. 12 people. My parents, my grandmother, Brianna, and Cole and Lily, my father's brother and his wife, 2 cousins I had not seen in years, and me. I sat across from my grandmother. She caught my eye several times during dinner, and each time she gave me a small nod. A quiet, steady, "You are doing well." My father's brother, James, was a man who spoke without thinking carefully first. About 40 minutes into dinner, he looked at me directly and said, "So, Mara, 6 years is a long time. What have you been doing with yourself?" The table went slightly quiet. The way tables do when a question lands that everyone knows is heavier than it sounds. I set down my fork. I looked at James, and I answered his question honestly. I deferred my university enrollment after my college fund was redirected. I worked 2 jobs in Knoxville for a year, saved enough to cover my first semester, and put myself through the University of Tennessee's business program over 4 years. Graduated with a 3.8 GPA. Took a position as a financial analyst in Nashville afterward. I was promoted to senior analyst within 5 years. I currently manage a portfolio valued at just over $14 million, and I was approached last month about a partnership position at one of the largest investment firms in the Southeast. The table was completely silent. James stared at me. My mother had gone very still. My father was looking at his plate. Brianna was looking at me with an expression I could not entirely read. Something between shock and something older and more complicated. Cole cleared his throat softly. My grandmother, from the end of the table, said quietly and with absolute precision, she said she would be fine. After dinner, my mother found me in the kitchen while I was helping clear plates. She stood in the doorway for a moment before she spoke. "Mara, I owe you more than an apology. I know that. What I did, was wrong. I told myself it was for the family. I told myself you were strong enough to find another way. But the truth is I chose your sister's moment over your future, and I have not had a single day of peace about it since you left." I kept stacking plates for a moment before I answered. "I know," I said. "I believe you. Can you forgive us?" I thought about that question carefully, not performing the thinking. "Actually doing it. I do not know yet," I said. "But I came back. That is what I have right now," she nodded. Her eyes were wet again. She did not push for more. Brianna found me later, sitting on the back porch steps in the October cold. She sat beside me without asking. We looked out at the dark yard for a while without speaking. Then she said, "I did not know it was your money. Not until after the wedding. Mom told me months later. I asked her directly and she told me. I looked at her. I should have called you, she said. When I found out, I should have called you that same day. I did not because I did not know what to say. And then more time passed and it became harder to start. And then 6 months became a year, became 6 years, and I still did not know what to say. She paused. I am sorry, Mara. I am genuinely sorry. Not for the wedding. For the silence after. For letting you carry that alone when I should have found the words. I sat with that for a moment. Thank you for saying it, I said finally. That matters. We did not hug that night either. But we sat on those steps together for almost an hour. Talking about small things again. Then slightly larger things. Then things that were almost real. It was a beginning. Quiet and careful and honest. That is the only kind of beginning worth having. It has been 8 months since that October dinner. My grandmother passed away in January. Peacefully, at home in her armchair. I was there. I held her hand. I have had dinner with my parents 3 times since then. Each one is easier than the last. Trust does not come back the way it left. It comes back in smaller installments. But it comes back. Brianna and I text occasionally now. Short messages. A photo of Lily sometimes. A check-in. Small, consistent things that are quietly building into something larger. I have not forgiven everything. I want to be honest about that. Some things take longer than 8 months. Some things take longer than I currently know how to measure. But I came back. And I built something they could not take from me because I built it myself from the ground up with my own hands and my own choices and $4,000. And 2 jobs and a determination that came from the same place their decision came from. Love, just pointed in a different direction toward myself. I think about my grandmother's words often. Carrying something heavy for a long time does not make you strong. It just makes you tired. She was right. I was tired. I put it down. Not all of it. But enough to breathe again, and breathing, it turns out, is where everything else begins. If this story reached something real in you, if you have ever had someone take what was yours and call it family, drop the word taken in the comments below. And if you are new here, subscribe. Every week I share stories about family, about truth, and about the people who built themselves back up from nothing. I will see you in the next one.